When it comes to the data industry, did 2024 deliver on what it was promised, or did it fail to live up to its potential? We're going to explore that on this week's episode of the Data Radio Show. Hello there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Data Radio Show. Before we get started though, make sure you hit that subscribe button, make sure you're following us, because over the holiday period we've got some awesome content coming out with the help of Notebook LM, taking a look at some of the stuff that we've done for our Data Pro newsletter, which if you haven't signed up to already is completely free and it's linked down in the description below. And if you have signed up for it, we hope you're enjoying it. We're going to be turning some of those into podcast episodes to come out during the holiday period. And speaking of the holiday period, don't forget to make sure you tune in for some of the other stuff that we've already got on the channel, and that you've subscribed to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. We've got a competition during December 2024 and January and February 2025, where if you follow us, you go in the draw to win a Google Play voucher. It's just a fun little thing that will hopefully entice you along a little bit. Now, in this week's interview, I'm sitting down and having a chat to Christof Wenzeritt. He's the CEO of Scalefree, based in Germany, because I wanted to find out whether or not this year lived up to the potential of what we saw at the beginning of the year, where, AI was making the rounds and data modeling was making a comeback. And apparently Henry Cavill isn't the model who people talk about when it comes to data modeling. Honestly, it's all explained during this episode. It might be easier if we just jump over now and catch up with Christof. Christof Wenzeritt, sitting there in Scalefree at the moment in the middle of Germany, where it is freezing cold, I'm guessing at the moment. I'm not going to tell you what the weather is like here in the Southern Hemisphere. Needless to say, it's kind of the opposite of what you're dealing with at the moment. 2024 has been a pretty big year for you. Tell me a little bit about it. What's been your highlight? Well, what's been your personal highlight actually for the year? Because I know you've had a very big year.
Or a personal highlight. All right.
Personal,
That's a difficult one, to be honest. I mean, but no, it shouldn't be. So
it
if we're
shouldn't
not
be.
talking about work, like over me personally, like in
Yes.
general, for me, then obviously it was this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So in April, I got married. So that was pretty awesome. And the travel after in Mauritius as well. So that was my personal highlight, of course. Yeah, I'm really happy to be part of the husband crew now. Looking forward to it. But it's the first year of marriage, so let's see.
It gets better, but not in the way that makes you think things are bad now. It's just you learn more and you experience more and you add to it. So it's an
All
adventure
right.
that you two get to go on together.
Okay. Thank you for that futuristic outlook. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be fine, I'm sure.
And I kind of figured that would be the top of the list of personal things. And if you'd forgotten that, then we would have cut this and not recorded it. And yeah, nobody would be any the wiser. Hey, in terms of Scalefree itself, how have things been going this year? How have you found 2024?
In general, a bit challenging to be honest. Like in Europe right now, it's a lot of things happening. That makes working in Europe right now a little bit more difficult. So companies are a bit more shy now. They're just not sure about investments. I mean, we're still doing really good because we're obviously working in a data management world, which is always growing. So that's awesome. But in general, in Germany right now, the overall tone is a little bit more negative. We're looking, I think, at recession right now, and the outlook is more stagnation. But I'm sure we're gonna get through it with in Europe in general, right? And it will go up again for all the companies out there, or most of it. Some will always have a problem, but in general, going up again. And there's a lot of change now through AI that we see in the industry. So obviously, if you talk about data management, there's a lot of things coming up here and already a lot of things happening. Um, but I think the bigger impact is actually in the day-to-day work. So if you look at marketing, for example, and on general operations, there's a lot of use cases for AI out there that we implemented, obviously, but many other companies do it as well. Others struggle. Germany digitalization is always a step behind. Um, but they're trying. I just read a study yesterday. I'm actually doing a press meeting tomorrow with Commerzbank, and they have a lot of statistics. I'm not allowed to talk about it right now, but in the end, it's something you would expect. People try to implement AI in the operations mainly, and some fail, obviously, but they're trying. So it's gonna grow, I'm sure, in the next year,
Um,
especially.
I was having a chat to Jules from Ignition the other day, and
Mm.
he pointed out that there's so many safety laws around AI, Like the EU's had the AI Act come in. Australia, where he's from, has got a few things that are being changed as well. I know we're having a few changes brought in here around the same issues that seem to crop up everywhere. Does that sort of change in legislation, is that part of the reason why people seem to be a bit more hesitant towards AI within this industry, because we don't know what the rules are, or is it sort of the rules are
I,
running to play catch up with people playing Frankenstein with what they're doing?
I don't think so. I think that the thing is like you had a huge AI hype, which is already going a little bit down, to be honest, if you talk with
Mm,
experts actually working with data. So it was growing exponentially, and then you had that point where every IT leader had to invest heavily in AI, and they just pushed all the data together and put AI on it and said like, okay, now we're gonna have a great assistant for the whole company and everything's gonna be AI. And I mean, obviously it didn't work, right?
mm,
I'm always saying AI is like a buddy. You still have to explain stuff to it, the AI. They still have to understand the context and they need managed data. And then on top of that, they can work with it and then can be a huge help, right? But you can't just expect to throw everything there and then everything's going to work automatically. So they're trying. I think the AI Act didn't have that big of an impact. I don't think people are that hesitant to use it, except like the bigger companies that really want to think about AI applications. And then they're a little bit hesitant, but I mean, they have experts for it. They do projects already on it. And you already know what's coming with the AI Act, so you can just implement these things, right? So that's gonna be a bigger use case in the data management area for sure next year. There's a data act as well that doesn't go in the AI direction, but also it's another um, regulation towards data. So there's always something coming. It's the EU, so you can always
mm,
expect the next regulation coming. Um, but if you talk to people like in Europe, there's a lot of people that are afraid of AI, like what you can do on a negative side of things. So I don't think people really are much against the AI because they think something has to be done. They don't know if that's the thing that helps, but in general, if you look at spam messages, it's got a lot better recently, right? Things like that. And if you're not used to it, can make problems. But in general, it's a huge opportunity. And I think the EU doesn't yet really grasp the opportunity. And I'm a bit afraid that we're going to be behind in that area as well. So let's see. But yeah, in general, I don't see that much hesitation. It's just a general hesitation of what
mm.
Europeans do with everything new. They wait until everyone
They
else
wait.
did it somehow, and then if they see it works, they're gonna start implementing.
Mm. One of the things that's actually going on in Europe at the moment is you got a bit of a war on your back doorstep going on with Russia and the Ukraine, which has been going for a couple of years now. Um, Obviously, we think of war, in terms of bombs and missiles and horrible, terrible, tragic things, but there must be an element of war in the 21st century that involves accessing data and accessing information that we might not necessarily be seeing in the media. I'm kind of curious as to whether or not that event has shaped how people in Europe look at data management. Has it had an impact, or is it more a case of, look, we need to worry about everything else that's happening there? People being hurt before we focus too much about what the Russians might be taking from databases that they've got access to.
Yeah, I mean the focus is mainly that in Germany that people are afraid that the German military is not prepared for a drone war, so they don't really have the capabilities. I mean, we can produce great things, but we don't really buy it ourselves, so that's sometimes a problem. But I think the people there's a big shift, let's say like that. So when I was young, military was always something to spend less on because the time of wars are over, right? So there's like, and then we want to move the whole military towards a more like anti-terrorist, um, group that go into countries, are quick to fly somewhere and solve things on a smaller scale, but many things. And yeah, that changed drastically. And now they want to pump up everything again, getting tanks back. But um, so there's a huge change in thinking about war in general. So because now it's on the doorstep. So yes, it's a real war. It's not like there's 10 people dying. It's like a huge war with a whole front line with like the First World War, right? With trenches and everything. So it's crazy to even think about it. Um, and we see the drones play a big role, and we see that the intel plays a really big role. So every time there's a huge success from the Ukrainian or European side, it's often because they know something. They hack the system, or I don't know if they hacked probably, but they got the data somewhere and they can hit the target perfectly, right? That that is something really interesting to me, and I think there's a lot of on the cyber side going on. But I think the bigger thing on the data management part is the second part of the war, which is mainly through social media, right? So I mean, Russia plays obviously a second game. Like there's the real war going on in Ukraine, and then there's like the online war going on in the social media and everywhere, right? So they really try to push people that are anti-NATO or anti-Europe, right? And that's a lot of things that make problems. So there was a big wave now because of Romania, because there was one, let's say, TikTok super right-wing guy that got a lot of votes, and no one expected it at all that he didn't was invited to any of the discussion rounds or things like that. And it's just TikTok, and and the states are not really prepared to defend in that area, right? But this is a big, big thing, and I think it will just grow more and more that states have to be aware what's happening on their platforms, right? So data related, that's I think is a really big topic, and I'm not sure what's going to happen there, but there needs to be something happening, right? Because you can use it as a weapon nowadays, right?
Yeah. Well, that was sort of my thinking. I mean, I come from a country that doesn't do war very often, and we tend to our military tends to be more peacekeeping or sinking boats in the middle of the Pacific Islands without doing anything to sink the boat, but somehow it still ends up at the bottom of the ocean, which is the most recent military undertaking that we've done. But it did make me sort of think, data is obviously a very big issue. And we, in the work that we do, talk in terms of, businesses and outcomes and governmental outcomes and stuff like that. But there are other applications for data that we see all the time that people don't even think about, which is sort of
I
what my
mean, if you
process.
think about like where Dan invented data vault, right? It obviously the biggest case for data is always on the state side, because if you
Mm-hmm.
want to scan basically a lot of communication to find threats, that's a big topic, right? And
Yeah.
with what it will just grow, right? So I'm sure there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes, and I think there's a lot of going on with AI as well now, especially in scanning all that data. Um, so yeah, there's definitely a lot of things going on, and
Uh,
yeah, let's see how it evolves in the future.
Hopefully, war is one of those things that doesn't have to do for too much longer, or we don't have to work with for too much longer. But speaking of big things behind the scenes, let's have a little chat about the Data Innovators Exchange, because it's been a pretty full on year for it. Launched a few months ago now, already exceeding its predecessor, or just about exceeding its predecessor in terms of user numbers. How has that been for you guys sitting over there and being behind it and being supporting it?
Uh, Actually, awesome. So
Cool.
I really love the community, and I was really looking forward to the move to the new platform. And obviously, no one knew how it's going to be, right? If it's not going to work at all, if people are actually going to join. Um, but people love it, right? So there's much more people now on the platform. There's engagement on the platform. We start with the events. So this year we had 4 events. So we had an event in London, Munich, Brussels, and Melbourne with the community, which is great, right? And it worked really well. People are super happy with it. The events are really community focused, so that's more workshops and not just presentations, like 1 or 2 smaller presentations, but the rest is just doing workshops the whole day. People are super engaged there. It's awesome. And looking at that success, we have a good reason to further invest in it, right? So next year, going to be much more events. So I'm looking forward to that at all, very much. And yes, in general, like the classrooms, it's a new things that we didn't have before. And I really love that people stepped up and built those platforms, those classrooms. And now we have already a few, like 3, 4, like introduction classes, plus the event classes, obviously. So you see what's happening on events. The upcoming event class will be added soon, so you can see for the whole next year, like which events are coming. So you know if it's my city is part of it. So I can already tell you the city of London will be back again. Hamburg will be part of it. Um, Prague will coming in February already, so this is the next one. Um, and like 3, 4 more probably next year. So there's as much cities that we're gonna go to. So make sure to check it out. If it's near you, just come by. It's free. Get free drinks. So it's a good
Mm,
opportunity to
I
network.
like that plan. Yeah, learn a little bit
Yeah.
about Data Vault and free drinks. It
Yeah,
works.
it's the perfect
But
combination. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think my favorite feature on this is actually the calendar because I love the fact that I can sit there and go, right, we've got Data Vault Friday coming out, we've got the Data Radio Show coming out, we've got this person who's doing this course, and the community is using it, which is really cool to see. So you can sort of see what people are doing around the world in different markets and what areas that they're focusing on and helping each other out. And I think that's brilliant, personally. It's yeah, very fun. Very fun.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I had a little chat to your marketing people the other day, though, around our YouTube channel. And they think it's a good idea if we look at an increase in the budget to try and grow our YouTube channel and some other content by paying for Henry Cavill to present things.
Did you say Henry Cavill?
Henry Cavill, yep, former
Yeah.
Superman. Um,
Yeah, I know
but
that
just
guy.
try and
I love that
increase
guy, to be
the
honest.
appeal.
Yeah. I mean, could be an idea. I'm sure the ladies from the marketing department would love that. Um,
Yeah.
maybe next year. Maybe next year. Let's see. Let's
Well,
see.
the logic behind it is he is a very big fan of building machines and doing a whole bunch of IT stuff. And I kind
That's
of
true.
figured that you know he's got the background and he's a superhero, and I can't think of any other reasons why people would want him on the show other than his obvious expertise in the field.
I mean,
So
Henry Cavill as like the data superhero. I would love that, but I would love
yeah,
to see the costume design for
yeah, I don't know who would be in charge of that one, but it's
that.
something to work
But
toward.
but let me think about like extending the marketing budget around like 10, 20, 50,000%. Maybe. Let's see next year.
Yeah, yeah, we could get a movie theater to invest in it. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. We're
Yeah.
gonna start tomorrow.
Make movies and build data vaults. Hey, speaking of building data vaults, 2025 is going to be, I think, a fairly hectic year. Um, I don't know what it's like there in Europe, but for us here, it's starting to feel like things are actually getting back to normal post COVID and the recession that follows COVID and stuff like the mess that was the start of the decade. I don't know where Europe is in that process at the moment, but it feels like the kind of time frame that you're starting to look at investing in new infrastructure for IT, for example, and data management. Is that what you guys are seeing there or hoping to see?
I mean, we talked a bit about it. So, most people expect more stagnation in the next year. In overall, because the automobile industry, which is a big part of the German industry, not just because of these companies, but all the companies that are before them, right? Um, in the obviously they build a part of the car, so that's going down for sure. So it's more seen like stagnation in this part, but there's a lot of other areas as well, and um, I think it's gonna be better next year than people expect it to be. Um, and if I talk to people like directly about their companies, they are more positive. So the overall, German is more pessimistic, but if you talk to business leaders, it's getting better. So I'm not sure if there's like gonna be huge investment next year already, probably in 2 years time, but let's see. But the infrastructure, data infrastructure is always something people invest in. So German companies know, or European companies know, they have to heavily invest in their IT infrastructure and they have to adapt AI um, to actually keep competing, right? Because a person using AI is much more efficient than a person not using AI, right? And there's great use cases out there, and I think people see to adapt these things. So even if a whole company in general is maybe even reducing their staff, they're gonna invest in their IT sector for sure, right? Um, so in that area, I'm definitely seeing growth. But overall, the whole country, let's see, maybe a little bit.
Um,
Yeah.
in terms of this year that we're just leaving, what for you has been the biggest lesson? Has there been a big lesson that sort of come to you this year that's taught you something about what you're doing?
Can you define it a bit? Just my English.
Well, it was sort of I'm just, like the conversation that we had before about AI not being, as big as it was sort of predicted.
Yeah,
I'm just sort of thinking. I know people who are still on that AI bandwagon, and it is going to fix absolutely everything. And there are some people who are, we looked at it, and it's a
yeah,
gimmick, and it has a thing, but it's still a gimmick for most people.
yeah,
But those are things that they've learned this year. Like it's just seeing it in in work and seeing how things have
yeah.
adapted and evolved. So I'm kind of curious if you've got a moment like that as well, or something like that within the industry.
And not really a moment, but in general, if I check LinkedIn and I talk to people, you have the overall feeling that if people don't really understand AI, they think more about it fixing everything. And then if people understand it better, they can distinguish between things that are heavily going to improve through AI and things there's still going to be issues with, and we have to try to fix it. So if you think about um, simple things like the knowledge system of companies, right? And then say, let's put everything to AI, and then you can chat with the AI, everything is great. And then, data management. So like can be difficult because you don't know how old information is, you don't know where it's pulling it from, could be a bad article. So we need some kind of trust. We have a trust issue with the AI, right? People are still not sure if they trust it, and if the data is not good, they can't really trust it. So let's you know do a middle ground here, right? And then the frameworks were built that the AI just sends you an answer, but it also sends you where they got the answer from, which page. So you find the manual or whatever it pulled it from. You can check it. You can see when was it updated. You can put another framework on it and give you like a trust score and stuff like that. So there's things that improve the AI, so you can use it heavily, but you can fix kind of the trust issue. And there's many cases out there where AI, just raw AI, without any real management behind it, it won't fix these things, right? But if you can work with it, and if you're a little bit more cautious how to use it, it can be a great thing. But I think that's a big difference. Like, so data people working data management and working with AI, they're usually a little bit more hesitant with saying, yeah, it solves everything, right? Because they know the issues that are there. And I also feel like some people at least are a bit afraid that AI is gonna like plateau in the future from the capabilities. I'm not sure about that. Let's see. But the AI that's already out there, the models that are already out there, we can just we can pull from that for years to come to implement these things in all the applications that we have and the processes that we have. Um, in all the standard operations that a company has. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for pretty much every company out there to use what's already out there in their processes. So that's going to take some years, um, but it's going to heavily impact on the efficiency of companies and especially an employee. Like if you take me, for example, if I say, all right, we have a conference, for example, next week or something like that, and uh, I forgot to tell marketing to build a flyer for something that's really important to me, right? Or some content piece. Like, okay, damn it. And they're on vacation. Usually I would be screwed, right? Okay, I can't really do much. I have to build everything. I can't design it, it's difficult. Maybe the designer is there, but, they don't know what to put there. And then it's really difficult to organize everything. But I can just put everything into AI and I chat with the AI and then build a great content piece, give it to designer, and then it's done, right? So that's something I couldn't have done before, at least not with the amount of time I have available for this task, right? So I can do it like in 1 hour instead of like 6 or 7, right? So that efficiency boost is huge. And I think companies gonna use that. I'm sure we gonna use it, but I'm also sure every other company will try to use it too. Yeah.
So for 2025, any big predictions?
Yeah, I think a lot of AI use cases in
Yep.
operations and also in data management, modeling as well. Like you have things like Flow AI out there as well now. Um, so there's in every piece of the process, AI will play a role, and I think that's the big difference. It doesn't mean that I does the whole thing automatically, and you don't have to do anything. That's not gonna happen, at least not next year. Um, but in every piece of the process, AI will be implemented somehow, and it will heavily influence the industry. That I'm absolutely sure about.
Do we run the risk of focusing so much on the flash new gimmicky AI that we forget the basics?
Not the good data management people. That's what I talked about. If you know that you have to give the AI the context it needs, so it has to know how old content is, for example, right? Who wrote it? Like they just need input to describe the data. Do you have a description? They need metadata to put it in data management terms. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So, and then you have AI X, etc. So you have to filter data and you have to prove which data flows into the AI, which came out last year, stuff like that. So yes, so you definitely need a lot of groundwork, and you should not forget about it. Otherwise, your AI project will certainly fail. So talk to your data management guys or ask externals. We're here.
Exactly. Exactly. I think it's the perfect way to wrap this up. Christof, thank you so much for everything this year, and hopefully you have a fantastic holiday season and are back bright and bushy-tailed next year. Everything should be fun and exciting, hopefully, without quite
Yeah,
so much snow.
I, I think so. Thank you so much, Paul. It was great to be here. See you maybe next year in another radio show. Would love
Yeah,
to be here again.
absolutely. That's the plan. Radio, we'll take over the world next year, number one on downloads.
Absolutely. All right, Paul. Bye bye.
Hey guys, thanks once again for checking out this week's episode of the Data Radio Show. We've got one more episode for 2024 lined up, which is a bit of a preview, I guess you could call it, for 2025. We ask people what their predictions are. It's like gazing into a digital crystal ball. So make sure you tune in for that. It'll be available wherever you download your podcasts or over on our YouTube channel. Also, don't forget, if you haven't done so already, to hit that subscribe and follow button. Feel free to share the video and tell everybody about what's going on so that they can come along and join the journey with us. Until next time, make sure you live long and prosper. May the force be with you, and I'll catch you all later.